the history starts in Venice, where a good friend of ours, Luisa Nocentini, saw the exhibition of Adi da Samraj, and she fell in love, literally. She was so enthusiastic, and immediately she thought that it might be interesting to put this kind of paintings in comparison with the Florentine context. And so she came to me as the director of the museums, and we tried together to figure out how to create a proper environment for such a contemporary artistic expression. And of course, this kind of cenacoli came to my mind immediately. Cenacoli are a typical Renaissance in earlier Gothic building where basically the space is empty except for the main wall with the Last Supper painted by an artist, very often a very good master, like in our cases, Ghirlandaio. So it came to my mind that these empty spaces might fit with a purpose to show such an extremely bright and lively expression. And so Monica Bietti, the director of the Cenacolo del Ghirlandaio, so-called, the space is called from the Last Supper as the main subject of the representation, and she agreed that it might be thought about it. So the organization came into the scene, and after, well, some agreements, we decided to try this incredible, I can say, attempt to offer to the Florentine and international public something they are definitely not used to.
And what do you think the response of the public will be to?
Well, from the first answers that I got, there will be and are probably already going on varied reactions. Some of the friends I talk to are enthusiastic, and they say, well, eventually you did it. You did something really brave and updated in a way, trying to, to put together extremely different visual expressions. On the other hand, someone already criticized the relationship between Master Adi da Samraj and Ghirlandaio. Of course, I don't think the proper thing is to compare them, but to understand subtle links between two different expressions that comes from different culture, different moment of the history, and even different techniques, because of course the pigments of Ghirlandaio are not the acrylic inks of our master. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In Venice, for example, the Biennale already established a certain familiarity between ancient artistic or architectural expression and brand new works of art. Here in Florence, this kind of relationship has to be built, and it may take time, but I'm confident that it'll be extremely appreciated.
Because, of course, there was a time, 500 years ago when Florence was leading the world, and many other people were uncomfortable with it, but that's part of the traditional Florence. Now it's history, but then it was very avant-garde, then it was very on the cutting edge, as we would say now.
Sure, we always have to think back and imagine that at a certain point of the history, also this Last Supper was new, and the last brushstroke was given by Ghirlandaio and then open to the public, and we don't know what the reactions have been.
Even the perspective that we're looking at was an innovation. It was something challenging at that point in time. Now,
sure.
Of course, it's commonplace, but then it was...
Exactly, and what we perhaps do not fully realize is how important some innovation might have been. We perceive a sort of continuity, but probably at that time the ordinary attendance was perceiving the difference, and maybe they were shocked.
And I'm quite sure here you have this tension between, as you say, a tradition and an avant-garde or a very contemporary, and so that creates a tension that can only lead to dialogue, only lead to conversation.
That's what I hope. It's certainly a striking contrast, and it's certainly something that Florentine attendance is not used to, but still I think, and Monica with me thinks the same, that we have to try to establish contacts, because we can't stop, The history of Florence has been wonderful, but we hope that it will be equally wonderful in the future.
That will take leadership, of course. What was your own first response when you saw the art of Samraj? You'd heard that someone wanted to bring us and they were very excited. Just what was your own response?
Well, it was a gradual approach. At first I had been shown the catalogs, and I was persuaded that this is certainly a remarkable master, and it was interesting to have him in his second European Italian venue, because as far as I know, he is more familiar with the other side of the ocean. On the other hand, I was also interested in examining a rendering image before deciding, and it was immediately clear how striking the contrast was. At the same time, it was also clear that it was a challenge that was worthwhile to take. Well, I was immediately intrigued by the title of this long painting, Alberti's Window. That's a very strong claim of continuity and inspiration, and the geometrical arrangement, of course, is not in Alberti style at all, but it makes us think how vital, how still very lively the message of Alberti might be. So he is the renowned and established master of perspective, and it's very touching for me that an absolutely contemporary artist may be still considering that legacy and still being inspired by it.
No, it's very true. He sees them as a critical movement between the past and a breakthrough. And so now he was trying to say, what comes next? What was left unfinished? Because there's always the next step. From single perspective to multiple perspective to a perspective.
On the other hand, the geometrical play has always been an intriguing possibility for the artists. They have, of course, the naturalistic side. They may be portraitists or still life painters and so, but we know that all throughout the whole history of Western painting, there was always someone who was extremely excited by the perspective. If you think of Paolo Uccello, contemporary of Alberti, he used to be renowned for his perspective experiences and experiments, and also we know from his biographer Giorgio Vasari that he didn't want even to have supper because he had to draw, he had to stay at his own table and work, and he used to say to his wife, I don't come because this perspective is such a sweet thing, I can't quit. So it's very clear that there's a passion for geometry and perspective, that it's a sort of link between past and present.
Wonderful. Could you say some of that in Italian again, if you don't mind?
Mi ha subito affascinato il titolo di questo lunghissimo dipinto di Samraj, cioè La finestra degli Alberti. La finestra degli Alberti è il prototipo della cultura prospettica occidentale, è l'invenzione geometrica che viene dalla scoperta di Brunelleschi, che cioè una prospettiva naturale che si può riprodurre geometricamente. E dunque il riferimento che il maestro di oggi vuol fare al maestro di ieri, ovvero di 4-5 secoli fa, Leon Battista Alberti, e la sua eredità è estremamente interessante sul piano culturale. È un segnale forte di continuità ed è anche all'interno di una tradizione che ha caratterizzato l'arte occidentale di occuparsi di prospettiva e di geometria, anche da parte di pittori. Un esempio molto noto è quello di Paolo Uccello, che non riusciva ad abbandonare i suoi studi di geometria e di prospettiva neppure per andare a cena, e quando la moglie lo chiamava rispondeva soltanto «Oh, che dolce cosa è questa prospettiva». Paolo Uccello era forse uno dei più appassionati estimatori della prospettiva rinascimentale, ma vediamo che ancora oggi questa cultura continua a dare i suoi frutti ed è riconoscibile anche in un'espressione estremamente contemporanea come quella del maestro Samraj.